Hi, boys and girls. I'm ready to get started with our social studies lesson for today. And it is on using a line graph. And we did some work with graphs in math. We did pictographs and we did bar graphs. And I said you'll learn about some other kinds of graphs like the pie or circle graph. And now we're going to learn about the line graph. And a line graph is important because it can show change over time. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to go ahead and take a look at this pair of bald eagles. A pair of bald eagles is two eagles that nest together. And I believe they stay together for life. And did you know that their nests can be 6 feet across and can weigh over a ton? Sometimes they just add more and more sticks and branches on top and just keep building more and more on top of their old nests. A couple of other things about these eagles we'll talk about. I want you to look at them. One is a male and one is a female. Which one do you think is the male? This eagle or this eagle? It's hard to tell a difference, but one of these eagles is bigger than the other. You can see that this eagle is a bit taller and his tail comes down longer, or her, we don't know if it's him or her, and it's just a little bit bigger. And then look at the beak. The beak of this eagle is a bit longer than this eagle. We can't see the back talon here, but the back talon of this eagle is longer than the back talon of this eagle. Those claws that we would call those claws, or on a bird we'd call them feet, but on birds of prey we call them talons. And the eagle is a bird of prey. It's a predator. It hunts other animals. So it's got excellent eyesight. So sometimes you hear people say eagle eye. That's kind of like an idiom, but it's talking about, that doesn't mean that my eyes are eagle's eyes. It means I can see really well. And they see motion really well. And these eagles, they like to fly down into the water, into the lakes, and grab up fish or small animals with their talons. I have seen a lot of bald eagles because I lived in Minnesota, and I used to see them just going on a walk in the park. And sometimes I would see them carrying a small animal or a snake. Well, a snake is an animal too, but it's a reptile. But sometimes they might have a little mouse or even a rabbit in their talons. But that's the way that they live. That's just the way that God made them. That's part of nature. Now I'm going to tell you, this bigger eagle is the female. The female is bigger than the male. Are you surprised? I had to look that up because I wasn't sure. Now we're going to go ahead and get started reading. A line graph uses a line to show changes over time. Look at the graph on page 297. Do you see how they made a line? That's why it's called a line graph. But before they put the line down, they had to plot points on the line, like a connect the dot in a coloring book. This graph shows how the number of pairs of bald eagles has grown. The number of bald eagles was once so few that the government made a plan to protect them. You can follow these steps to read the graph. Before we do that, there was a time when people would use certain kinds of pesticides that they would spray on their plants and things to keep pests away. And sometimes that would get into the water system, and the fish might then have this pesticide inside of them. And then when the eagle would eat the fish, the eagle would die because they were chemicals that were poison. Or the rabbit that ate the grass that maybe had the pesticide on it, and then the eagle would hunt and eat the rabbit, and then the eagle would die. Also, sometimes people would shoot eagles, especially like farmers who, they were getting into their animals, pens, maybe stealing away some rabbits or some chickens. They're very strong and they can carry away a small animal. So they decided that we need to protect this bird because they're going to disappear. And when that happens, we say they become extinct. So we did not want the bald eagle, which is our national symbol of the United States. We didn't want this bird to go extinct. So we protect this bird, and it is against the law to shoot or to catch or in any other way try to capture or injure a bald eagle. And there's a big fine, and you can go to jail for it. You are not even allowed to own a part of an eagle, not a feather, not a talon, except for Native American people who use the feathers as part of their traditional headdresses. So I was lucky enough when I lived in Minnesota to see a bald eagle headdress, but it wasn't for sale. It could only be used by Native American Indians in their ceremonies. But we still don't hunt them. Okay, so we're going to go through the steps. Read the title to learn what the graph shows. Remember I told you in math, always read the title. And then we're going to read the labels. So the title is Population of Bald Eagles from 1995 to 2000. So that's a 5-year span. Number 2, read the labels along the bottom and side of the graph. They tell what the numbers represent, what they stand for. Well, remember I said that this is our vertical axis. It starts at 0 and it's counting. It starts at 4,500 and then it goes to 5,000, 5,500, 6,000. So they didn't, this is where the lowest number was between 4,500 and 5,000. So that's where they started the graph. And then they counted by 500 more each time. So that's important to note. There are 500 more each time. And what are those numbers representing? Number of bald eagle pairs. Well, number of bald eagle pairs. Now we look at the horizontal axis. That's giving the years. So the title gives us both parts of information. This gives us one piece, and this gives us the other piece so that we can make our graph or read our graph. Notice that the years are 1 year at a time. They started in 1995, and then they did 96, 97, 98, until we got to 2000. Number 3 says, use the dots on the graph and the numbers along the bottom and side to find the number shown. So, in 1995, if I follow this line up and I see where they plotted the dot on the line, you see that it's plotted on the line. Do you see how they plot them on the vertical lines to match up with the date? And it's between 4,500 and 5,000. I think between 500 and 1,000. That would be about 4,750. So in 1995, they had about 4,750 eagles. In 1996, they had about 5,200. So they had gained over 1,000. And then by 1997, we see it steadily increasing. As it goes up, it's increasing. And then we had a big increase in 1998 to 1999. Do you see how steep that line goes? Here we're just kind of gradually going up, but then we had this big increase from 1998 to 1995. And the increase was from about 5,000 to about 6,200. So about 1,200 more pairs were added that year. What year? Oh, between the years. Between what 2 years? Between 1998 and 1999. That's important. And then we see by 2000 we had about 6,500 pairs of bald eagles. Okay, so we look across here for the numbers and we follow this line up here. We put our dots on where they belong and then we connect our lines. We're going to practice that in our workbook. Now, it says use the line graph to answer these questions. What information is shown along the bottom? That's the year. Along the side, number of bald eagle pairs. Number 2, between which 2 years did the biggest change in the eagle population take place? Remember the biggest jump. Here we're just kind of sliding along, going up, 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 and then woo, way up. And it asks between which 2 years. So it started in 1998, and this increase for a year, 1998 to 1999. You would write both of those dates down. So now we're going to go ahead and look at our workbook on page 82. We have 2 line graphs. We're going to use them to compare information. It says, the charts below, these are the charts. The charts below show the high temperature in 2 cities for 5 days in July. Plot the temperatures on the line graphs and connect the dots. Then answer the questions that follow. You heard me use that word plot, that they plotted the dot. That means to place a dot on your number line where it belongs, on your number graph, line graph. So, City A and City B, there's 2 different cities, but the dates are the same, July 12th, July 13th, July 14th, and we're comparing the temperature in those 2 different cities. So City A, on July 12th, I'm going to use City A. Here are my dates. Here are my temperatures, and they go up by 5 degrees. And here's the information I'm going to use. So on July 8th, or 12th, excuse me, it was 86 degrees. Here's July 12th. I'm going to follow the line, and right above 85, I'm going to put a dot. I'm going to plot. Do you see that? Next, I'm going to go to July 13th. July 13th, 101 degrees. Here's July 13th. I'm going to follow my line all the way up to 100 and just go right a little bit above it to 101. I'm just plotting my dots right now. Next, I'm going to look at July 14th. It's 104. This must be somewhere like Arizona. 104 degrees on July 14th. Here's the 14th. Follow the line up. And we're just a little tiny bit below 105 degrees. Do you see that? 105, so 104 is right below that. You can see my dot there. Now, it cooled down a little bit to 95 degrees on the 15th. So here's the 15th, and I want to go to 95 degrees. So 95 degrees on the 15th, right here. And then on July 16th, it was 90 degrees. So they dropped a little bit more. July 16th, 90 degrees, right here. Do you see how it follows? 90 degrees, July 16th. Now, this is called a line graph. I'm going to connect my dots. I'm going to start with the first dot, and I would use something, an edge to write with so that you have nice straight lines. And I'm going to connect July 12th with the 13th. Don't do it until I show you what I've done. Just like that. Then I'm going to connect July 13th to July 14th. Now the temperature is going to go down, so I'm going to connect July 14th with the 15th. We have to do this one at a time. And then I'm going to connect that to July 16th. And you should have a number line that looks like mine. You are going to do letter city B on your own. Do it carefully. You can rewind this and look and remember how to do this, how we did city A. And then we're going to answer the questions at the bottom. So I'm going to read through those questions. On which day did city A record the highest temperature? You could answer that right now because we have the highest temperature right here. Follow it and see what it is. And double check by going back here to the chart where we have our data. Number 2, which city had the lowest temperature on July 15th? We can figure that out because we've got all the information in our charts, our tables. We could find city A or city B. Where is the lowest temperature recorded? You don't have to look at it yet, but you are going to make this graph. So you could either look at your graph or look at the chart. Number 3, on which day did city A and B record the same temperature? Look at your graphs when they're finished and double check it by looking at your chart of information, your table. And number 4, there's 2 parts. Which city had the steepest drop going down in temperature from one day to the next? So you're going to put city A or city B. But then it asks, over which 2 days did the drop occur? So just like with the bald eagles, we had to say their biggest increase was between 1998 and 1999 maybe, I think it was. So I had to give both years. Now this one we're looking for when it drops, the steepest drop. All right, take a picture when you're finished. Make sure I can read your work.